epic views, waterfall mists, summit sunsets. It's all better outside. And with All Trails, you can discover the best of nature with over 450,000 trails around the world. Download the free app today and find your next adventure. We all belong outside. We're drawn to nature, whether it's the recorded sounds of the ocean we doze off to, or the succulents that adorn our homes. Nature makes all of our lives, well, better. Despite all this, we often go about our busy lives removed from it. But the outdoors is closer than we realize. With All Trails, you can discover trails nearby and explore confidently. With offline maps and on-trail navigation, download the free app today.
There are stories we tell to frighten children, warning of things that lurk in the dark. But sometimes the stories aren't just stories. Sometimes they come to life. And when they do, the monsters aren't always what we expect. I'm Sarah, and this is Obscurata. Because some stories have no ending. It was the winter of 1878. The bitter cold of the Canadian wilderness stretched endlessly in every direction. Snow weighed heavy on the trees, the wind carving through the landscape. And somewhere deep in that frozen isolation, a man named Swiftrunner walked into the forest with his family. But when he came back, he was alone. And the story he told was unthinkable. Swiftrunner was not always a monster. Before the winter of 1878, he was known as a family man, a respected hunter, and a guide for the Northwest Mounted Police. Born among the Cree people around 1839, he had once been a man of strength, of skill, of honour. But something had changed. The world was shifting. The buffalo were disappearing, taken by settlers, by industry, by greed. Without them, starvation crept closer every winter. And with hunger came something else, despair. And with despair, whiskey. Alcohol was spreading through the plains, brought by traders who did not care what it cost the people they sold it to. And Swiftrunner was not immune. It took hold of him, eroding his reputation, turning him from a respected figure into someone no longer trusted among his own people. He was cast out, unwelcome in his own community. His family, however, remained by his side. And that winter, they followed him into the wilderness. Winter in Alberta is not kind. The temperatures drop far below freezing. And if you are unprepared, it is not the cold that kills you. It's the hunger. When spring came, Swiftrunner reappeared, alone. He told authorities that his wife and children had died of starvation, that the winter had taken them, that he had suffered the unbearable pain of watching his family waste away in front of him. But there was something strange about him. He did not look like a man who had starved. He was not emaciated. he did not look weak. And when they asked questions, his answers did not sit right. Something was wrong. The authorities didn't believe him. A team was sent back to his winter campsite deep in the forest. What they found was horror. The bones were scattered. Some still carried bits of flesh, rotting under the pale sun. Skulls lay cracked open, and the truth became clear. Swift Runner's family had not starved. They had been eaten. Faced with the evidence, Swift Runner confessed. But what he said was even more terrifying than what they had found. He told them that something had come for him in the winter, that he had felt it growing inside him, an unbearable hunger, a darkness that cajoled in the cold. He said it was not madness, not desperation, but something else. Something old. Some say he called it the Wendigo. The Wendigo is a legend that has haunted the Cree, the Algonquin, and many others for generations. A creature born of starvation, of greed, of the ultimate sin. It's said that when a man consumes human flesh, he does not just commit a crime, he invites the Wendigo into himself. And once it takes hold, it's never satisfied. Swift Runner claimed he was no longer himself, that something had taken over, that he had tried to fight it, but in the end, the hunger won. The trial was held at Fort Saskatchewan in 1879. The evidence was undeniable. The remains of his wife, his children, his mother-in-law. Swift Runner tried to explain. He told them he had been possessed, that it had been the Wendigo. But the court did not believe in spirits. They only saw a man who had done the unthinkable. He was sentenced to hang. Swift Runner was led to the gallows on December the 20th, 1879. A priest stood beside him, offering final prayers. A noose was tightened around his neck. He did not beg, he did not weep. Some say his last words were simple: "I am ready." Swift Runner's case is remembered as one of the most disturbing in Canadian history. But was he a man who lost his mind in the isolation of winter? Or was it something else? Wendigo psychosis is still debated today. Was it a real condition, a kind of hysteria brought on by starvation? Or was it just an excuse for murder? And if it was just a story, just a legend, why do so many still swear it's real? Why do the old ones still whisper warnings when the wind howls too fiercely in the night? There are stories that slip between worlds. Stories of spirits, of curses, of things that cannot be explained. But sometimes these stories are more than myths. Sometimes people believe them enough to kill for them. Such is the story of Jack Fiddler, the last great Wendigo hunter, a man who claimed to have fought monsters, and for that he was put in chains. In the early 1900s, the deep wilderness of northwestern Ontario was home to the Sucker people, an Uji Cree community. It lived on the land for generations, isolated from the encroaching world of settlers. They followed the old ways, traditions passed down through blood and memory, shaped by survival in an unforgiving land. And among them was a man of power, a man of visions, a man named Jack Fiddler. To his people, he was not just a leader. He was a shaman, a healer, a protector. And above all, he was a Wendigo hunter. To understand Jack Fiddler, you have to understand what he fought against. The Wendigo, a legend so feared that even today some refuse to say its name out loud. It is more than just a monster, more than just a spirit. The Wendigo is hunger itself. It's said that when a person turns to cannibalism, when they consume human flesh, they invite something terrible into themselves. The Wendigo is insatiable. It devours and devours, but no matter how much it eats, it is never full. It is a thing of winter, of famine, of desperation. And once it takes hold, there is no saving the one who has become it, unless you kill them first. Jack Fiddler did not hunt animals. He did not hunt men. He hunted what men could become. He claimed to have killed at least 14 Wendigos in his lifetime, though some say the number was even higher, possibly as many as 26. 14 souls who had begun the transformation. Some were strangers, some were his own people, some were his own family. Among the Uji Cree, this was not murder, it was mercy. To them, Wendigo possession was a sickness, one that could not be cured, only stopped. And it was the duty of the shaman to act before it was too late, before the hunger took over, before the killing began. But the world was changing. The Canadian government was expanding its reach into Indigenous lands, enforcing laws that had no place in the old ways. In 1907, the Northwest Mounted Police arrived to bring the law to a people who had never needed it before. Jack Fiddler and his younger brother Joseph were arrested. The charge? Murder. The victim was Wasakapikwe, Joseph's daughter-in-law. She'd been ill. The elders feared she was becoming Wendigo. She had to be stopped. But the government didn't see it that way. The old ways didn't matter. There was no Wendigo, only men who had killed a woman, and in the eyes of the law, they were criminals. Jack Fiddler did not wait for their judgment. While in custody at Norway House, he escaped into the forest. Perhaps he thought he could vanish into the land that had always protected him. Perhaps he simply refused to die in a white man's cage. But they found him before he got far, and when they did, he was already gone. September the 30th, 1907, the last Wendigo hunter took his own life. Joseph Fiddler was left to face trial alone. He stood before a court that did not understand his world, a court that did not care. He tried to explain, tried to make them understand what his people had always known, that the Wendigo was real, that it took people, turned them into something terrible, that Wasakapikwe had not been murdered, she'd been saved. But the court did not believe in monsters. He was sentenced to die. As he sat in prison, Joseph's people fought for him. Petitions were sent, appeals were made. The government reconsidered. Maybe, they thought, it was wrong to impose their laws on a world they did not understand. Maybe, they thought, he should be freed. But the decision came too late. In 1909, Joseph Fiddler died in prison. His pardon arrived after he was already gone. Jack Fiddler's story is not just about monsters. It's about the clash of worlds, the destruction of traditions, the erasure of belief. To his people, he was a hero, a protector, a man who kept the darkness at bay. To the government, he was a murderer. But in the end, the Wendigo never left. Even today, deep in the forests, under the pale winter moon, the legend still lingers, the story still whispers, because hunger never dies. There are moments in time that feel like they belong to another world, moments so brutal, so surreal, that they don't seem real at all. July 30th, 2008. A Greyhound bus cutting through the vast emptiness of the Trans-Canada Highway. The sky was clear, the road stretched endlessly ahead. And then, somewhere near Portage-la-Prairie, it happened. A man screamed, a knife flashed, and inside that bus, the ordinary turned into horror. Tim McLean was 22, a carnival worker, a free spirit, a young man who lived for the road. He had spent the summer travelling with the fair, working rides, making friends in every town he passed through. But now the season was ending, and it was time to go home. He boarded Greyhound bus 1170 in Edmonton, Alberta, heading east toward Winnipeg. It was supposed to be just another ride, just another long stretch of highway. But someone else was on that bus. Someone who would turn that night into a nightmare. Near the front of the bus, a man named Vince Lee sat alone. He was 40 years old, silent, expressionless. He had boarded the bus in Erickson, Alberta, carrying at least 3 pieces of luggage, including a plastic bag. After a rest stop in Brandon, Manitoba, Lee reboarded the bus and moved to sit next to McLean. No one paid attention to him. Why would they? He wasn't a threat, just a quiet man on a bus. But beneath that silence, something terrible was brewing. Then, sudden movement. It happened so fast. One moment, Tim McLean was listening to his music, leaning against the window, half asleep. The next, Vince Lee was on him. The knife plunged into his neck and chest. Once, twice, over and over. Passengers screamed. The driver slammed on the brakes. Tim tried to fight, but Lee didn't stop. He kept stabbing, kept cutting, and the bus filled with the sounds of panic. The passengers ran. Some tried to stop him, to pull him away, but the blade kept swinging. There was nothing they could do. The door opened and they flooded out one by one, tripping over seats, shoving past each other in terror. The driver disabled the bus, locking Lee inside. But he didn't try to escape. He stayed with Tim, and what he did next would haunt them all forever. Outside, the passengers watched in horror through the bus windows. Vince Lee was still stabbing, but now it wasn't just rage. It was something else, something methodical. He cut Tim apart, piece by piece, and then, in the quiet of that locked bus, he did the unthinkable. He lifted Tim's head, and then he ate part of him. Law enforcement eventually arrived at 8:30 p.m, surrounding the bus with guns drawn. The passengers stood by, shaken, watching as the standoff unfolded. Lee paced back and forth, still gripping the knife, still clutching his victim's remains. For hours, he refused to surrender. He muttered to himself, he rocked back and forth, he held up pieces of Tim's body, as if showing them to something no one else could see. And then, at 1:30 a.m, it ended. Lee broke a window, tried to escape. The officers took him down. When they searched the bus, they found him clutching something in his pocket. Tim McLean's ear. In the months that followed, the world struggled to make sense of what had happened. How could something so horrific, so random, happen on a bus full of strangers? Vince Lee's trial would provide an answer, but it wasn't the one people expected. Lee suffered from schizophrenia. He'd been hearing voices, and on that bus, he believed he had received an order from God. Kill the demon sitting next to you. Tim wasn't a demon, but in Lee's fractured mind, reality had twisted. He wasn't just killing a man, he was saving the world from evil. On March the 5th, 2009, Vince Lee was found not criminally responsible due to mental illness. He was remanded to Selkirk Mental Health Centre, where he would receive treatment instead of a prison sentence. There is no evidence that Vince Lee believed in the Wendigo, no proof that he had ever even heard the stories. And yet, the comparisons were inevitable. A man who suddenly turned on those around him, a hunger beyond reason, a disconnection from reality so severe that he saw his victim as something inhuman. It was Swift Runner all over again. It was Jack Fiddler's greatest fear. It was a story that's been told before around dying fires, a story of transformation, of something monstrous lurking beneath the skin of a man. Years passed. Vince Lee received treatment. His doctors deemed him no longer a threat. In 2017, he was granted an absolute discharge. No more restrictions, no more oversight. He was free. But the story never faded. The passengers never forgot. And Tim McLean's family, they never stopped asking why. Because some things are too terrible to understand. Some wounds never heal. And some stories never end.
Out here, we feel things. The sore calves that lead to epic views, the cool waterfall mist during a hot hike, and the breeze that hits just right at the summit. But hey, don't just listen to us. Experience it for yourself. All Trails makes it easy to discover the best of the outdoors, with more than 450,000 trails around the world, points of interest along the trail, and offline maps for always-on navigation. Download the free app today and find your next outdoor adventure.
Hey everybody, it's Nicole Byer here with some hot takes from Wayfair. A cozy corduroy sectional from Wayfair? Yeah, that's a hot take. Go on and add it to your cart and take it. A pink glam nightstand from Wayfair? Scalding hot take. Take it before I do. A mid-century modern cabinet from Wayfair that doubles as a wine bar? Do I have to say it? It's a hot take. Get it at wayfair.com and enjoy that free shipping too.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
If you have your own theories, the discussion group is now open. You can find the link in the podcast notes. And if the paranormal intrigues you, be sure to check out The Whispering Woods, where we explore hauntings, folklore, things like that. I want to say a huge thank you to Rog as well for editing and fact-checking. And if you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. That would be great. And as always, thank you for listening. Until next time, Stay curious and keep the lights on, just in case.
When you think of skyrocketing brands like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, it's easy to credit their success to great products, sleek branding, and brilliant marketing. But here's the overlooked secret. The real magic lies in the engine behind the scenes, the business powering their business. For millions of brands, that engine is Shopify, making selling seamless for them and shopping effortless for us. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Aloe Yoga uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/retail, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/retail to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/retail.